Welcome to Literally Books, the podcast. I am
My
Lindsay,
name is Magda.
and we are continuing on with our own personal Onyx Storm quest squad.
Yes, I think we need to make some patches or something with the Quest Squad because that is the new term, I think.
I know we're over halfway through. We're doing chapters 33 through 50 today.
Correct.
Spoilers ahead.
A lot of them.
A lot of them.
It's getting intense.
It's getting intense. Okay, do you want to kick us off with our first sort of overall plot summary?
All right, let's do it. So, to kick things off, the Quest Squad heads to Hedides, the island of wisdom and knowledge, and there we meet Satan's mom, Talia. In order to secure the island's support for the upcoming war, they must pass a wisdom test with the island's leader, otherwise known as the Triumvirate. Surprise, surprise, Talia is married to one of them.
We'll talk more about what happens in Hedotus, but from there they go to Zahilna, which is the land of luck. In order to meet with their leaders, they have to select a card that represents a gift, and the group cannot protest any of the gifts that they receive. So I'm going to run through some of them because this is an important moment. Mira gets wine, Maren gets a tunic, Dane gets a slap, Garrett gets a rusted steel bucket, Aaric gets a fractured hand mirror, Xaden gets an empty glass box, Violet gets a broken compass, Riddick gets a kiss, Kat a gold necklace with a ruby in it, Drake gets a kitten, broccoli, and Traeger actually draws an arrow card and is shot and killed, much to the dismay of the squad, but particularly Kat, who has formed a romantic connection with him.
Really sad. The team later decides to split up to cover other small islands. In one of these small islands, we finally meet the Irids. They are a peaceful kind of dragon and left Andarna with the other den to serve as the criterion or gauge humanity's growth towards peacefulness. Because they think Violet wielded Andarna as a tool of war, they reject her and refuse to help. And Andarna is now depressed.
Heartbroken. After that, the team returns to Basgaia defeated. We learn that a city of 25,000 people was killed beyond the wards, with Queen Mariah being one of the casualties. So Takaris is now king. Navarre refuses to take in refugees, but Tyrandor ignores this decree and agrees to take them in. The team returns to Eratia for rune studies, and Violet and Xaden discover Violet's second signet, which is a dreamwalker. We close out the chapter with the horde of Ryvern approaching Eratia.
Things are getting real now.
Things are getting real.
I'm really nervous for the next quarter, but we're not talking about the last quarter. We're talking about 3/4 of the book. So let's get started.
Okay, let's get started. Okay, what were some of the shocking things for you in this section?
So I think you just mentioned it. We finally learned what Violet's second signet is, and it is a dream walker. So I think this has been hinted over time for I guess since book one, we just never really catch it. And we can now see that all of the dreams that Violet was seeing, we did kind of know that those were like Satan's dreams, but it turns out that she was just walking into them and she was able to kind of see it. The other interesting thing about this is that the Irids were really mad that Andarna gave this signet to her. It said that it was really powerful and a really dangerous power that it shouldn't be given. It's also a kind of what is the word? Intrinsic.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't see it. I'm hoping that you might have some theories about this, but I don't think it's as powerful as we think it is. But I'm probably being short-sighted.
Okay, so here's why I think it is a bit powerful.
Okay.
There's a few things that get brought up here that I feel very vindicated because I did think that she and Xaden were going to be complementary intrinsic types.
You did call this out.
Little pat on the shoulder there. I'm just kidding. Okay, so here's why I think it's powerful. One, I think they learn that she is this kind of dreamwalker intrinsic because she has a dream from Xaden's perspective, like you mentioned, where he is interacting with the sage. But not every dream that she's had in the prior books has been through Xaden's perspective. And a few of them she's interacted with various sages. So I think sort of like in like Harry Potter, how Harry and Voldemort are connected through dreams, I think she can actually see through the sages' minds through these dreamwalker, which will give her sort of insight into their plans and their next moves. And then alternately, Xaden also says that you can't shield while you're sleeping. So it gives her a lot of access to people without them being able to really do anything about it.
She's normally being able to do this while she is sleeping as well. So I'm wondering maybe as her power grows, she'll be able to do this while she's awake and then just walk into it. We know that the signets do get stronger over time. But it is interesting. We also talked about it in one of the earlier ones where where Violet had this dream about trying to save a picture from being burned down. And it turns out that it was one of Kat's friends, and Violet just kind of happened to walk into that dream as well. So she doesn't really have control over. I don't even think she knew that this was happening. She really just thought that these were just her dreams, which is weird. What about you? Anything else you want to talk about the second signet? I feel like I'm still a little bit, I don't want to say underwhelmed. No, I do want to say underwhelmed about this. I'm just probably being a little bit short sighted, and I'm wondering to see how this signet is going to develop over time. Kind of what you mentioned, it's probably going to play a lot of a bigger role in the next book or fifth book potentially.
Yeah, I think it's also sort of interesting because so many times in the book, Violet says that she's interested in objective truths. And dreams are sort of the opposite of that in a lot of ways. Like they're a collection of our subconscious emotions and feelings and concerns and
Hmm.
worries. And there is not a lot of objectivity in it. And so I find it interesting that she chose dreams in particular because it isn't really aligned with Violet's true self.
Do you think the sage have the same power as walking in dreams? Because Zayden is seeing this as a dream, and I'm wondering if it's the sage giving messages to Zayden. And I think we're starting to see
Maybe.
that some
Yeah.
of we start to see that some of the Venons have like very similar powers to them, and I'm wondering if they're just that's kind of happening. So maybe the sage is doing dream walking, and Violet is also able to do
That
that.
makes sense because my next sort of shocking thing is that we learn that Theophany, the sage that keeps coming back and visiting Violet, is also a lightning wielder. And so I think there is definitely a possibility that they have matched signets. And then
Hmm.
I was going to talk about this later, but I'm going to bring it up now. It also comes up with Lynx, who was a first year from Iron Flame that's in their squad, who basically manifests his signet as a shadow wielder. So like everyone is really surprised because these are supposed to be super rare signets. But I think and Zayden actually says like, well, magic likes everything in balance. So you have Zayden and Lynx who are tied together, and now Violet and Theophany.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Little bit of a foreshadowing there, I'm thinking.
Exactly right.
I think the only thing too that we learned that is shocking, but maybe not, is that the Irids do confirm that there is absolutely no cure for Venom. Like that's it. It is
Hmm.
what it is. They're only going to turn, and they're just meant to draw the power and then die. That's it. There's no cure, and they just kind of. I think Satan kind of accepts us the way that it is, although he still kind of has a little bit of hope in his mind. Violet refuses to accept this answer from the Irids, though. So
I'm very worried about this.
yeah, it's not looking good.
It's not looking good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's move to the lighter side of life,
Yes.
which is some of the small details we loved.
Violet's badassery, in particular when she's still like going through from island to island to negotiate with the with all of the leadership to be able to kind of get support. We just kind of see how smart she is and how her scribe brain, and I think we've talked about it, the mind of a scribe. She still has this mind where she's able to read the room and be able to prepare in ways that I wouldn't be able to anticipate. So, for instance, when we kind of meet Talia and they're going to be talking to the triumvirate, Violet sets up this whole plan that we don't even learn until later, where she actually poisons everybody in order to regain some leverage if they don't pass the wisdom test. And that was a little bit of a shocker because the triumvirate had actually poisoned them, but she caught on to that really quick, and only Garrick was impacted by that. Was it Garrick or it
Garrick,
was
yeah.
Garrick, right?
Mhm.
So that was pretty cool. I really love that she's so smart. She's actually a really great leader, and I'm excited for that. I don't like her that much when she goes back to Basgaya because I think she automatically defaults back to her old self. She thrives better when she's out leading a squad or has like a true mission that she needs to fulfill.
You're exactly right on that.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
And even that moment too, she has the foresight to send in Darna to sort of use the kids as leverage. And I think that moment is significant because in the past, you've sort of seen Violet shy away from putting people in danger or hurting people or making a morally great choice, even when it's for the greater good. And I think it's a turning point here that she is willing to sort of threaten Talia's other kids, Zayden's half siblings, in order to leverage, additional power and get them on her side.
Exactly. I think she's learning that diplomacy is not the only way. You need to be able to match up to the canning of the other people. So I really appreciated that she's learning this lesson. She's getting more serious about it, and it's not easy to rule or to lead, but she's making those hard decisions now.
Just a small thing. I love that Sawyer is flying again, and that moment between him talking to his dragon and him saying, like, "I won't dishonor you by making you lean down to let me get up." I'm actually getting, like, teary-eyed talking about it because it's just so sweet. The, like, conversations around honor and the dragon being like, "Fuck that, like, you are back here and you're doing this, and, like, I will lean over proudly." And Terrence says basically the same thing to Violet, like, "This is the least of my worries. It's not dishonorable. Like, you're my rider." It's so sweet.
It was such a sweet moment, and I'm glad that we spent a good amount of pages on this
I
storyline,
know.
because it just kind of speaks about their resilience of trying to kind of get back on the horse, aka the dragon, and being able to do their part. So it was just really beautiful to see how they're overcoming their trauma as flyers and no, as riders. So I really love that.
I do too.
Hmm.
And as a squad
And
too.
as a squad,
Yeah.
yes, they're so supportive of each other, and I
Mhm.
love that. One of my other favorite things that I loved is when Riddick finds out that Zayden is a Venom.
Mm.
Just for like, I'm sure everybody that's watching this has already read it, but pretty much Satan is the one that kind of messes things up with the Irids. Like there were a couple of dragons that were still giving the benefit of the doubt to Violet, and but when they saw that Satan had the red irises, they were just like, nope, we're not gonna be even less now. We're not even gonna be working with you. So they just left. So Riddick does find out that he's a Venom, and Riddick lays it down on Violet,
Yeah.
and you know, even Riddick says, like, you think that because just I'm funny that I'm a dumbass, and I'm not. And what you're doing is wrong. And you know this because everybody's been telling you this, and I cannot be the first person that is giving you this lecture. And that's probably why you haven't told any of your friends, because you know that they're going to be calling you out on what you're doing. And I love that.
That is such a good call out because it's also in this moment when they're traveling together that Riddick and Violet say they love each other in a platonic way. And like I do think it speaks really well to like your true friends are going to give it to you whether you agree, like give it to you straight whether you agree or disagree. And he really holds her accountable for this blind spot that she has with Zayden. And even when she tries to say like, well, Imogen and Garrick know, he's like they're loyal to him. What do you mean? Like I'm your friend.
Exactly. That was such a great call out. They're like, yeah, some people know, but they're not looking out for you.
Right.
We are. And you need to. And I love that he made her draw the line.
He made her set a
Yeah,
boundary.
what is your boundary when I can go kill him or turn him in, because this is not acceptable. And I love that. Like it made her kind of wake up a little bit that, hey, you need to get it together. Like this is not okay.
It is interesting too in that boundary. She basically says like the boundary is if he hurts another cadet without being provoked, or if he hurts someone else
Mm-hmm.
or some of the squad. And then very last, she says, or if he hurts me.
Mm-hmm.
And it just really shows you that Violet is not in a good headspace in terms of like being caring about herself or putting herself first, because I think she would let him hurt her. She
Yes.
keeps saying like he would never hurt me. It is such, we talked about yesterday about like an enabling behavior. It is such an enabling behavior that she's like, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. He'll change. It'll be good. It's such a dangerous, scary
They're in
dynamic.
denial.
They
She's
are in
in
denial.
denial. Oh my gosh. Oof.
Okay, should we move to some of the foreshadowing events?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, you go to yours first.
So we kind of learned that Satan is kind of learning that potentially if he is able to make it a little bit more stable, that he might be okay to controlling like that he's turning. It's not going to stop it, but it's going to just make it a little bit more stable. And we learned that it's about 76 days what he has to make it through, which that equates to how long Jack Barlow went without drawing power from the
Double.
ground. From the what?
It's double what Jack Barlow.
Oh, it's double what Jack Barlow
Yeah.
did. Oh, sorry about that. So it's kind of a big deal. I think once they go back to Aricia, Satan tells this to Violet, and he's like, I'm at 73 days and I'm doing really good. So they get down to business, but I don't think he's going to make it to 76 days. I mean, I think that's like a pretty easy foreshadowing. I think it's right there on the line because we're getting a horde of wyvern coming to them. So I
And
don't
it's
think
an
he's going to make it.
That's such a good point, and it's an arbitrary boundary anyway. The
Hmm.
76 days is not significant of anything other
Yeah,
than, yeah, he's measuring it against Jack Barlow, but we know like it's coming. He's
exactly.
turning.
Yeah, yeah, he is. So
Hmm.
no chip for him.
Okay, mine is very innocuous. I don't know if this is true, but at Zenal when they're given the gifts, there is a call out to Zayden getting an empty glass box where he was like, I really enjoy this box of nothingness that you gave me, which that line made me laugh. And then Violet gets a compass that doesn't face north. I think those two things, if not all of the things that they're given, are going to have some significance in future plot points. Just
Hmm.
a guess. Don't know how.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I also hope broccoli comes takes a bigger role into this whole thing because I do love a kitty story.
Okay, I think that the purpose of broccoli is to bring Drake and Mira together. They're gonna get together. They're gonna get
Oh,
together.
they are.
Yeah,
They are an enemies to lovers trope,
I
and I
know.
am here for it
I'm loving
because
it too.
Mira just seems like such a like, oh, I hate romantic gestures, but she's like slowly breaking.
She loves that freaking kitten.
I
So
know. I love this so much. And then there are two quick things that I want to call out. I don't know if these are going to be big foreshadowing events, but the first one is everybody keeps telling Violet that her choices of boyfriends are horrible, and this includes now Aaric. When they were being tested by the Triumvirate, Aaric kind of speaks up at some point and he defends Violet. He's like, she's smart, she's passionate, blah, blah, blah. But the only thing is like she has terrible choice in men. And I love that. I'm in love with Aaric, by the way. Like, I love this guy.
I
He's
do too.
great.
The triumvirate section, actually, because he has a big speech during the triumvirate section, and so does Mira, where they're basically just like, fuck you guys. Like, we
Mhm.
are putting our lives on the line. We have this leader who like doesn't is not powerful, who's working through shit. Like, they just really are on display in like a great way. I loved that part of that
They're
section.
truly a squad, and I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
that. But Arik was amazing. But I think even throughout this entire section of the book that we just read, even Violet is coming to that realization that they are toxic. But she's like, I don't care that we're toxic. And I'm like, girl, you need some therapy because you need to work through these issues. But I don't know. This just kind of leads me to believe that there might be a potential where they're not endgame. And I'm okay with that.
You've said that a couple of
Mm-hmm.
times. Tell me why.
I honestly don't think that they fit together. I think this is just more of a juvenile love story. And I think Violet and Satan can do better. And I think this is just them being obsessed with each other. However, this is like a very shady theory because I do know that Heron has said multiple times your choice of mate. And I think even Violet questions him, like, why do you keep saying mate? That doesn't exist in humans. And Heron at some point says, like, oh, you don't know anything. So I don't know. I'm kind of contradicting myself here. I honestly don't want them to end up together. I'm so sorry. Please don't come for me, but I don't think that they're good for each other.
Here's what I think about it. I think from a writing perspective, we're already too invested in their relationship. So to not give the reader that, I don't think is edgy or interesting. I think it's actually just really unsatisfying.
Hmm.
So I do hope that they end up together. Otherwise, like why I'm in book 3 watching this relationship build. Like we're far too far in the series, I think, to just break them up.
Yeah.
But I think what you're kind of speaking to is like we're gonna need in book 4 and book 5 some serious character development with them separately. I think the things that you like about this book are the moments where they're sort of building their characters up, and Xaden is disintegrating as a character, and Violet is flourishing.
Hmm.
I think in the next book, we need to see Xaden have a true redemption arc. He's in a kind of Tamlin space right now where you're like, oh, I don't really like
Yeah.
this controlling nature. So you're not rooting for them. I'm really hoping in the next book we do some development so that you're rooting for them again.
And I just want to clarify Violet is flourishing when she is taking control
You're right.
and she's not depending on Satan for something.
Mhm.
That's when she's flourishing. Because as soon as those dynamics change, she's back to being year one Violet or year two Violet in Iron Flame. And I don't like that. So yeah, you're
No.
right. Hopefully we'll see a little bit more development. But right now, you said it right. I'm not rooting for them. I need them to be apart.
We need something. We need a breakup
Hmm.
of space and time so that they do some evolution. But I want them together. I feel
Yeah.
like otherwise why have I gone on this ride, you
I
know?
don't know. Maybe Rebecca can pull an ace or something. I have no idea.
My very last foreshadowing is I mentioned this earlier. So the duplicated signets. There is an introductory sort of paragraph at one point that talks about the original 6 and how rare it is for significant signets to have popped up at the same time in history. And that was like right before the unification, basically. We're obviously seeing those duplicates of really strong signets pop up again. I think that's not a mistake. I don't think it's like a big leap to say like that's absolutely coming, that we're going to get some kind of version of the original 6 in this to kind of stop this war, and we just don't know who those other people. I think Bodhi could potentially be one because he hints at a second signet, but we don't know what it is yet. We obviously know Garrick has a second signet. There's something significant happening there, and it's happening in the marked ones who are basically
Yes.
saying like we want peace, or
Hmm.
we want protection for everyone. I think that's not a coincidence.
It's going to be really interesting because I think you're spot on that we're going to see the same signets battling each other and it's just going to come down to wittiness and smartness.
Yeah.
And potentially trying to find an edge. And I think Violet is starting to kind of figure this out as she realizes Theophany, what's her name? Yeah, Theophany, was able to kind of fly through storms in a way they had never anticipated. And she's like, I need to figure out how I can have an edge above her
Yeah.
because she's gonna be her match.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. I'm really excited for this next battle. So I think just some open questions and maybe last minute thoughts. There were a couple of things that caught my attention. So we do learn that Hedotes, the people there have purple eyes, and it's because of they eat something and it turns out their eyes kind of purple. I found this very similar to Dune. I'm just saying that we're getting a lot of references to things that happen in Game of Thrones. We're getting Harry Potter references. We're getting Lord of
You
the
mean
Ring
like the Frank
references.
Herbert novel Dune? I thought you
Yes.
meant like Think Dune, like the
No, no,
Dune
no,
here
no,
you're
no.
talking about. Yeah,
The
okay.
actual Dune
Yeah.
novels. So, because they have it where their eyes turn blue in this particular species because of the spice. So I just found that to be a little bit funny. The other thing too that caught my eye is in one of the scripts about one of the chapters. It says a dragon determines its last flight and the riders. I don't know why that impacted me so much, and I feel like that's gonna be an important play in the future.
I agree.
And then the last thing too that also caught my eye in these inscripts is that all of the correspondence that is recovered from Satan, it still says from the Duke of Terrandor. And I know that we kind of talked about like maybe they all died or something. And it just kind of leads me to believe that maybe it gives me a little bit of hope that Satan doesn't find out that he was a Venom. Because
Oh,
why
yeah.
else would they just continue to refer to him as Duke
As
of
the Duke.
Terrandor? I don't know. That's just me playing around.
There's so much happening in those prescripts because we learned that Asher Daxton is Asher Sorengale.
You were right, Lindsay.
I think you're commenting on like him, yeah, Zayden remaining a Duke. I mean, those things are really important. I honestly think like those are the best parts of Rebecca's writing.
Agreed.
Okay, should we end today's recap and then come back tomorrow for the very last section of the book?
I think we should. Thank you for listening to Literally Books, the podcast.
Where we say what we read.
And we mean what we say. Bye.